If you think about why your life is what it is, why you have dealt with the events that you've dealt with, especially if you see patterns in your life, often it can be traced back to something that happened in a prior life. Some event that you did particularly well, particularly poorly, or evaded altogether. It could be any side of it, anywhere in between that scope. So if your soul comes back and you're constantly, and I'll use myself as an example. I have worked in a male-dominated field my entire career. And repeatedly throughout my career, I have had to learn that I am not one of the boys. I am not a part of that community in the sense that I wanted to be. I will never be accepted to the same level that they are just naturally. Didn't matter how hard I worked. It didn't matter how much I put myself forward. I was never going to get the validation from them that I felt I needed from them, from an outside entity, from an outside group. And I kept coming up to this point in my career where I would get stomped on. I would get my heart broken. I wouldn't get something that I felt I deserved. So when I look at that through the lens of Chris, just normal Chris working in a men's world, it's very easy just to get very angry and say, screw them, all men suck. I certainly don't mean that. Otherwise, I would stop working with them. So I had to do the spiritual work. I had to reframe those events so that I could better understand why they were happening. Why do I keep facing this pattern? And one of the things that I did was regression therapy. I did, and you can find them all over YouTube, past life regression therapy, where you go on a guided meditation where someone talks to you and leads you on this journey of visual cues to take you back to a prior life. And I was able to see specific to this life, although there are many lives that feed into the one that we have currently. It's not like you can just trace back all my pain comes from this one life. In this one particular regression, I saw that I had a parallel track in another life. I was in a life where I was given the opportunity to stand up and fight for what I believed in. Uh, this was, I would say, the late 1500s was what I saw, and I was a male in that lifetime. And there was a lot of conflict in the village that I lived in, and I had the opportunity to choose whether to join my fellow villagers and fight with them, or seclude myself away and live a very quiet and peaceful life. It was going to be fairly isolated. I was able to get married and do all those other things, but it was a smooth life in the sense that I came to a turning point in that soul's journey where I could choose to take an easier path or to take the harder path. And in that life, I chose the easier path. I chose to move away from community and just take care of myself and my family. In this life, I've made the opposite choice. And reincarnation and the thought that your soul comes back to learn, really, it doesn't take away the thought of free will. If anything, it really gives it a lot more power because your choices are ultimate. You have infinite amount of opportunities to do these soul lessons. So in that case, standing up for what I believed in, joining a community, fighting and potentially dying in that life was an option. I had that option. And as a soul having a human experience, I chose the other way. So my soul did not learn whatever lesson it would have learned if I had gone to the left. I did learn. My soul continued to learn whatever it did for the existence that it had, but it didn't go that track. So in this life, I'm constantly being asked, and my father asked me this all the time, why don't you just choose an easier path? And it's because I'm not meant to. I've done that. I've chosen the easier path in lives before. I chose the path that allowed me to have a very safe existence with my family. That was very insular. I could just worry about us. I would make sure we existed, we survived, and the rest of the world just was not my problem. It wasn't what I wanted to focus on in that life. And in this life, it's exactly the opposite. That's why I say parallel, being given the same tools, the same opportunities. In this life, the big opportunity for me was 9/11. When 9/11 came around, I joined the military. I joined the US Air Force. That wasn't something I had to do. That was my choice. And I've chosen, both through the gifts that I was given in this life and through the opportunities to stay engaged in the fight, to stay engaged in that community, even though it makes my path harder. It makes that seeking for validation from the outside world a continual pattern, but it's intentional. I chose this path. I'd already done the other one. My soul had already learned what it could learn from that path. So I'm learning this one now. And a big part of that whole lesson is not to seek the hard way or the soft way. It's the nuanced lessons inside. So in this life, the lesson that I'm continuing to try to learn is not to seek outside validation. It's, I will never be accepted in that community, and that's fine because I accept me. My acceptance comes from the fact that I am a spiritual being having a human experience. And this is a microscopic blink in the eye of all of my past lives. Those events in that male community were not done to me. The most traumatic experience in my life weren't people doing things to me. They're part of my own soul's choices to give me opportunities to react, to evolve, to survive, to choose which path it wanted to go. How does that change how I hold on to anger or pain? For me, what it did for me by really going into the nitty-gritty of this was it took away my opportunity to be a victim. It took away the necessity to be a victim. Things weren't done to me. They weren't outside of my control. I wasn't punished by getting breast cancer at 29. And I did have breast cancer at 29. It was an opportunity. It was something I set up for my own incarnation so that I could learn something. It was giving me an opportunity to evolve, to tap into higher consciousness, to tap into spirit, to tap into strengths and gifts that maybe I hadn't had a chance to tap into before on that conscious level. Because again, if my life is perfect and I get to sit on a yacht in, I don't know, in the Caribbean all the time, what am I going to learn? Instead, I've given myself cancer. I decided to join the military. I decided to join a male-dominated field. I make these choices over and over and over again because I am giving my soul the opportunity to learn something very specific. And only I can tell myself what that is. Only I can find out what that is. Now, you're not alone in this. You don't have to, if it sounds overwhelming, it's really not. What I'm trying to convey in this is the creative journey that it truly is. I'm trying to convey to you my passion for the magic that is life. If you accept half of what I say as factual or as something that resonates with you, think of all the opportunities that opens up for you. Instead of dwelling on the feelings of loss of control, um, of want, of need, of fear. Not only are you all powerful, but you are fucking brilliant. You are a magnificent soul having a human experience. So, what is this experience teaching you? What opportunities have you built into your life to give your soul a chance to evolve? Absolutely. It's magic.